Perfect. So servus and welcome everybody to our Neco Community Conference. The fourth time this year of the fourth quarter. As usual, we're gonna talk a bit about upcoming changes and the quarterly report from the third quarter, which looks really good. And at the end, we will have a session for questions, answers, and feedback. So I'm gonna switch to my presentation. If I find the button, things have changed here in, here, in Zoom, I see. There we go. Okay. So, fourth community conference. We have about 1 hour. We're going to record the session, so it will be available on YouTube later on. So this is a quote I already had on our last community conference, which I really liked. It says, regulation needs to catch up with innovation. And we have seen this, especially this year, with the new regulation that the EU just published in June of 2023, which finally harmonizes all the crypto regulations that we've seen over the last year in the European Union. Yeah, for us at Neco, it was a really, really long journey. When we started in 2019, at the very beginning of our project, we looked at, we got a legal opinion about our token in Malta, and they classified us as a virtual token. In the same time, until now, we have had now 5 legal opinions in 4 different countries, all with different classifications. But finally, this new regulation gave us the legal basis and the legal security that we have been looking for. The new MiCA regulation, we have analyzed it. It was passed about 3 months ago. We have analyzed it in our legal team, and the results are pretty good overall. And I want to, today, the big part of this presentation is about the upcoming changes as a result of the new law that was, published recently, the MiCA. So the first thing that is probably not the best news for everyone is we will have to postpone our ICO to 2015, simply because the new regulation will come into effect in December 2024. So that's when the authorities will start processing applications. And as you can imagine, an application usually takes a few months, so we do not expect realistically to be able to do our ICO in 2020. Oh, it's a mistake. Actually, it's not 2015, it's 2025. So I always mix up that number. So our ICO will be in 2025, and the other ICOs, StackChain and Collexa, will follow the subsequent years. So we had to update our roadmap. We've also decided finally that we will issue the token from Estonia, and we're currently in process of setting up the legal entity in Estonia. I've already prepared or explained the reasons in the last conference, but I'm not going to repeat it now. So Estonia is one of the leading countries in terms of crypto, but also in terms of digital governance. So everything down there is, is digital, is optimized. So a very modern country that has been at the forefront of technology. And Tallinn, the capital, is also known as Europeans' kind of Silicon Valley. So this is the reason why we decided to go there, plus the tax advantages that we have there. But our organization, the Democracy DAO, and DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So an organization that is decentralized, not having a single headquarter or a single CEO or power. Our DAO will be consisting of legal entities in Estonia, in Germany, and in Switzerland. So, and this is currently what we're doing. We're preparing to set up all these legal entities in the various jurisdictions and applying for the various licenses and, other approvals that we need from the authorities to launch our token in 2025. Yeah, and a big change that will probably make most of our community super, super happy is that universal basic income will become convertible. So the reason more or less is, having UBI non-convertible would mean it would be considered a separate token, and we never wanted that. We wanted Neco and UBI to be exactly the same token. So the law kind of forced us to reconsider this topic of convertibility with UBI. Yeah, we found a solution that will allow us to make UBI convertible, but still preserving the stability of the system and preventing people to abuse the system and convert all the UBI back into fiat, which would have a negative effect on our reserve. And I'm going to talk about this on the next slide in a bit more detail. Another change that we will have to do because of this law is karma tokens will disappear, and we will change it to karma points and badges. The reason being that every token and every token now has to be approved. And if we have so many different tokens, it just makes it very complex and very expensive. And so we decided that karma will no longer be a token. So we'll replace it with a new karma point system. The details will be published soon. We will also have to issue a new white paper. The final white paper now for the ICO, we're going to start working on it in the next weeks. And I would like to invite our community to participate. So people who like to review the white paper, who would like to contribute, bring in their ideas, or just provide feedback, are happily welcome. One of our values is to work collectively, to integrate our community into the decision-making process, and we now want to do this with our final white paper for the ICO. So feel free to participate, and we will send out invites when the process starts. Another important part for you guys to consider is we are most likely going to end our private sales. So we've been in private sales since the beginning of 2020, allowing people who were invited to buy Neco tokens before the official release. Now, because of MiCA, this will no longer be possible. So we're going to end private sales by the end of the year. So this is really the last chance for people to buy Neco tokens. Then we will stop it for a while until we go public, right? And keep in mind, we're talking about buying Neco tokens. You will still be able to sell Neco tokens at any time. So if you need to access your funds, if you need the money, you can always convert it back into fiat, but the sales will end. So this, on Sunday, we have the last increase of the Neco price in this year. This will be the very last opportunity also to buy Neco tokens for the current price of €1.13. Then the price will go up, and you will have 2.5 months time if you want to invest more, and then we will end private sales. Okay. Yeah. So these are, in a nutshell, the major updates, major changes that the MiCA regulation has kind of triggered, has caused. And now I'm going to talk go a bit more into detail about universal basic income and how we make it convertible. So yeah, good news, it will be convertible, but we will start slowly. The reason is we have issued over, I think, 800 or 900,000 euros in universal basic income, which is mostly sitting on the accounts of the UBI accounts of our members. So if we make it convertible tomorrow and everyone would convert it back into fiat, it will obviously affect our reserve. We still have the 10% reserve limit, so it wouldn't crash the system, but it would it could affect the stability and our performance. So for that reason, we will start with a little beta. So we'll slowly introduce it step by step. Starting in November, UBI will be convertible only for members that have karma level 5 or more. And this is in general how we want to prioritize in future. So karma is an important thing in our system. The higher the karma level, the higher your UBI allowance on one side, but also if you introduce new features or provide new services, we will start rolling them out to people with higher, or members with higher karma level first. Because usually what we see is like people who have higher karma understand the system better, have been around for longer, So there's just a closer relationship between these members. So that's why we start there. So it's also a form of prioritization if we have to. And then, if the beta works and we see that the conversion works and it doesn't affect our reserve levels, then we'll start rolling it out to members with karma levels of 5 or less. The beautiful side of making UBI convertible is we'll get rid of most of our UBI rules. So if you guys, know me, I'm a rebel. I don't like rules, but in order to, prevent people from converting UBI in the past, we had to put in a lot of rules which were quite difficult to enforce. And we've seen a lot of, tricks and other ways how people try to indirectly convert. So the beauty of making UBI convertible is that most of these rules are then obsolete and we can make them go away. So another thing that makes me happy in a way. But on the other side, we need to still put some protection and limits into our system to prevent the universal basic income program to take away the money from our reserve and to keep the system stable. So there will be a few adjustments, a few new parameters and new limits that we'll test in this beta to make sure that the system remains stable and profitable and that the UBI doesn't become a risk to our stability. So the first change will be the reserve rate required to generate UBI will be increased from today 12% to 15%. So only if our reserve rate is above 15%, will we issue new tokens for universal basic income. The UBI limit, which is the maximum of Neco tokens you can have on your UBI stack, will be reduced from currently 12 times the monthly UBI allowance to 10 times. So monthly UBI allowance, as you know, right now is 1,000 Neco maximum. And so that would mean you can save up to 10,000 Neco on your UBI account, which is a bit more than 11,000 euros right now. That's the maximum you can save on your UBI account. If the account is full, you will no longer receive universal basic income until the account balance goes down. And another very important parameter that we will introduce is called the cash balance. What is it? So the cash balance tracks the amount of fiat money that a member has either added to or taken out of the reserve. So pretty much when you buy Neco tokens, you add money, you put fiat money into our reserve, so your cash balance goes up positive. If you take money out of the reserve, either by converting Neco back into fiat or by in the future converting UBI into fiat, that amount is taken out of the reserve and your cash balance goes down. So simply speaking, every time you convert, for example, UBI, your cash balance goes down and that will reduce your UBI limit. So once you have converted your entire UBI limit, let's say 10,000 Neco, into fiat, you will no longer receive universal basic income. Right? I hope this is clear. So this is the mechanism that will prevent people from just taking out money, and it will keep up the incentive of using Neco to pay for your bill, your rent, and all the other things, instead of always going back into fiat. Because there's no, if you always convert back into fiat, it's not really helping us. It's just taking money out of reserve. You're still going back into the old system. Our mission is to build a new system, and that's why we ask you to, if possible, invite people and pay directly in Neco. No? And this was initially one of the thoughts behind not making UBI non-convertible, is to incentivize people to pay in Neco instead of converting back to fiat. Okay. Good. Let's just see a question in chat. Okay, good. Are there any questions regarding UBI? I know this is one of the major topics here, and if you have any questions, then feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
rather feedback, good step forward. I really like it. And I think good steps into a better direction. Amazing.
Okay, thank you, Hansi. Yeah, I'm also super happy. I just want to share one thing. You know, when I first read the legal opinion from our laws about MiCA and about this specific part of convertibility, I was shocked because I thought, you know, it's impossible to run a system with UBI being convertible. It would just, you know, not work. And so I was really frustrated, and I spent an entire day and night thinking about a potential solution. And then, you know, when this solution came to me, I realized it's actually much better than what we had planned. And I know, Hansi, you were part of the initial, you know, of the initial setup when we decided collectively that UBI will be non-convertible. So thank you for the feedback, and I'm really happy that this will now change. And you know, we will test it and see whether we need to adjust some of these parameters. So this will happen over the next few quarters probably. But I'm very optimistic that it will work. All right. Good. So this was kind of the latest updates, the changes that are coming over the next few weeks and months and quarters. But now I want to talk about our quarterly report numbers. I know it's for some people it's not so exciting, so I'm gonna go a little quicker. But if you have any questions, let me know. Also, I'm gonna explain some of the key indicators again, just for the people who have never joined Neco Community Conference, our new members, so they understand what these numbers mean. If you are interested in more details, the quarterly report is available on our website. And you can read through it, and it also contains the definitions of the major parameters that we track. So the Neco dashboard is kind of the key figure that has all the key parameters on one slide, on one image. The Neco price currently is at €1.13. In 3 days, on Sunday, it's going to be more, somewhere between €1.17 and €1.23. So we'll have an increase between 3 to 10%. So that means last chance to buy Neco tokens for the old price. The money has to arrive by latest October 14th, which is Saturday. And always keep in mind, banks are slow and they don't work on Sundays. They switched off their computer system, everything is down. So that's why they cannot send money. Just kidding. But keep in mind, it can take usually more than a day to transfer money. And what matters is the timestamp when the money arrives in our bank accounts. Our price potential currently at 179 price potential is the maximum price the Neco token could have at a reserve rate of 10%. Yeah, so this is a good indicator for the future. Usually or typically we achieve the price potential within 12 months. Right? So that shows you roughly where the price will be next year. Annual earnings currently at nearly 50%. So that's the profit we generate per year. It's a little down because in the last quarter, we were quite conservative on the profit part. So we put more money in reserve, which, guys, is really important now. There's a lot of costs coming our way for the legal expenses and the setup, capital requirements for the new companies. So I would recommend to be quite conservative with price increases in the future. So if you haven't voted in the Collexa referendum, it's still open until the 14th. So please vote. And yeah, my suggestion is to keep more money in the reserve. I know, profit is interesting for most of us, for most of you, including myself. However, we need to set some money aside for the upcoming legal expenses and the regulatory expenses. They are not to be underestimated. Yeah, UBI allowance is at 1,000 Neco at the moment, and our maximum carbon offset at over 2,000 tons. Good. Yeah, Neco token performance. So we're now almost 4 years. We've been running this prototype and never lost value. This is our chart to see a constant increase in value. Really happy about that. I don't expect any major changes. I don't see that the Neco is going to lose value. To the contrast, I think it will go up even faster, especially once we go public. This increase in price is not just speculation. The Neco only goes up when the reserve increases. So if there's more value behind every token. And this is what you can see in this chart here in the upper left. The gray line at the bottom, this is the amount of money, fiat money, that is in the reserve for every Neco token. So it has, the value behind it has increased. And only if the reserve increases, the price can increase. This is the blue line. So the blue line is the current price, which is determined by Collexa. This is, we decide collectively what the price is within the limit. The gray line being kind of the minimum, that's the reserve value, and the maximum being the price potential, which is the maximum price at the minimum of 10% reserve rate, right? So usually we have the blue line is always between the gray and the red line, and that is a good sign because that means the token is always undervalued, guys, and that is why it's so interesting for investors, because as an investor, you want to buy a token which is undervalued, you know, not a token that's overvalued. And you've seen it with other cryptos like Bitcoin, you know, they have been up really high, 40, 50,000 a few years ago, overvalued, and then they crashed, and now it's only half of the value. So we want to prevent these things. We want to prevent overvaluation, because that leads to bubbles, that leads to crashes. And that's why, we haven't seen any of these in the last 4 years within our token system. In absolute numbers, here the chart below, these gray bars show how much we have in the reserve. In this quarter, we broke a new record. We went through the 600,000 euro mark in reserve. So that's the amount of fiat we have in our reserve, euros, dollars, pounds. And the line up here is the reserve rate, which is currently around, I think, 16%. And also you see it's always above 10%, so we've never had the issue that it dropped below. And over the last 2 years, it's always been above 15%, more or less. So that's also a good sign. If we move forward with the new UBI, the convertible UBI, that we can continue providing UBI as it's above 15%. So when we compare Neco to other fiat and cryptocurrencies, we are still in a very unique position that we are the currency that has currently the highest profitability. Over the last 12 months, we had nearly 50%. That's higher than most of the other main cryptos. The highest level of security, we've never lost value, and a very high level of stability. And here are the numbers in a table. Compared with all the other major cryptocurrencies, fiat currencies, and gold. In terms of stability, only the British pound has been more stable recently. We measure stability by calculating the average monthly volatility, so the up and down that is happening on a monthly basis. We are currently at 96%, so we have 4% volatility, but it's positive volatility. It's caused by the increase of the Neco token every quarter. Security, 4 years, almost 4 years, no losses. And market cap, market cap, we broke through the $4 million mark in the last quarter. So yay on that. So we're growing slowly but steadily, and we still have a lot of potential up there. In general, the last quarter was not so positive for crypto. I think the market capitalization of crypto in total lost 10%. So our growth is a bit against the trend. And if you want to compare the charts, Neco versus Euro, gold, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dow Jones, here are the charts. You see the difference really is that there are no white bars, which means losses, and that we have a very stable upwards trend, and we're not so much affected by the markets and the crashes and the outside factors such as wars and pandemics. In more detail, company performance. So in general, I don't want to go into all these numbers. I think it would be overkill. People would fall asleep. So just the major things. Revenue, we had a record quarter in terms of revenue, the highest revenue ever. Our triple bottom line is a little lower because we didn't have so much profit in the last quarter due to the very conservative regulation. All the other parts are slowly increasing. members. So the number here is the absolute number of registered members. We count the active members, which is currently around 480. Our limit is 500. So we are very close to a limit. And once we end private sales, guys, we will no longer add new members. We will no longer have people who, they can join and sign up for the newsletter, but they will not be able to buy Neco tokens after private sales end. So really, this is the last opportunity if you want to invite friends and family that, you feel, would kind of match the values of our project, then now is a good time. Yeah, and after every quarterly report, we have our Collexa referendum. This is a collective referendum where we decide about the Neco price, but also the budgets for people, planet, profit in the quarter, the UBI allowance, and the carbon offset. The referendum is open until Saturday, the 14th, so 2 more days. And the new price will be effective on Sunday, October 15th. So you still have the opportunity to vote. These are the 5 options. Collexa is based on the average distribution of people, planet, profit over the last 12 months. And the other options are options that, are more focused on people, so a higher universal basic income allowance, planet, which means a higher budget for carbon offset, profit, the highest amount of profit here is 125, and reserve, which means we keep more in reserve and we distribute less profit. So please vote. The more people, the better the result of a collective vote. The collective intelligence increases with the numbers and diversity. So I really encourage you to participate. And and the roadmap. So as said in the beginning, we had to again postpone our ICO. So this milestone that we're currently in, build, has been taking much longer than I expected. And it's, as I said, mostly due to the legal issues that the MiCA regulation will come into effect end of 2024. And we were considering applying for the Estonia license, where we would be classified as a virtual currency, so a different classification. But our legal team suggested not to do this. It would just be a lot of effort, and it would become obsolete immediately once MiCA comes into place. So so we decided to wait for MiCA, which in my opinion is the best way. It gives us also time to do the development and test everything to make sure that once we go public, everything is stable and tested. We have almost completed our funding goal of 1 million for this phase. So in total, we are almost at 1.5 million that we've raised through crowdfunding. So thank you so much, guys. I know this was all crowdfunding from our community of less than 500 people. And I'm really, really proud. I've done a really good job. And it has demonstrated that the system works, even if we do not bring in larger investors. But this is what's going to change now. We're going to close the private sales. So we will close the sales to the public. As I said, for legal reasons, it's MiCA that makes it challenging to sell tokens before being licensed. So this will stop. But we want to continue raising money. However, the focus will be impact investors, so venture capitalists and angel investors who invest higher amounts of money, starting at 100,000 euros. So this is our Series A fundraising in the same milestone, and our goal for that will be 5 million. And with all these goals are quite, I would say, conservative. So we set these goals because this is the minimum we want to raise. And I expect that we will exceed that limit, especially with the ICOs. I think our ICO will be more than 10 million, but that's a conservative estimation. And that is the goal, that we say this is what is required to move on to the next stage. And I'm very, very positive and optimistic that we'll meet these targets. Good. So last slide, as always, guys, if you have some money that's sitting on a bank account, I suggest that you invest it into a more sustainable future. That is what I've done over the last years, and it has really worked out well. And I know a lot of you guys have followed. Yeah, I suggest don't let your money rot on bank accounts. Invest it into Neco. This is the last few months that this will be available. You can always convert it back in fiat. We have never lost value. So it's usually a win-win for all parties and obviously for our future, as this project currently covers 9, 13 out of, no, hold on, 12, yeah, 12 out of the 17 sustainable development goals. And we might add some more in future, right? So yeah, invest into a sustainable future. All right. That's it from my side. This was our quarterly report. Now I'd like to invite every one of you to ask questions or give feedback. As you know, the changes, the upcoming changes are still subject to change. If someone has any suggestions for improvements, really, really welcome. We might take them into consideration. Okay, Cyril, you have your hand up. I think you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I have one question regarding no more members after this year. If I want to pay someone still in UBI and this person is not a member of Neco, will it still be possible? Because this person is not buying Necos, right? But I'm sending Necos to that person. So do we close the list also for new UBI members? Yeah.
Yes, I cannot promise it. I would like to. But the new law is pretty strict. So there's still a few things that we don't have the clarity yet, but expect that we cannot do this anymore. So the worst case, we cannot. If possible, yes, I would like to keep it this way, but we might really have to close Neco, the prototype, and not let anyone in. It's just legal issues and legal risks. And right now we want to go low risk until we have the license, so that there is no additional things that come up. Yeah. So invite them now. Well, of course, it's hard to estimate where you will be in the next few months and where you will stay. I understand that challenge. But the thing is, you'll be able to convert UBI to fiat, and then you can pay. But, it's going to go, it will be taken off your UBI limit. I know. All right. More questions? No questions? Oh. All right. Then maybe I have a question. Who of you, raise your hand, who of you guys would be willing to contribute to our white paper and yeah, help us write the white paper collectively? Aha.
Mir macht die englische Sprache Schwierigkeiten. Also, oder ich bin nicht so gut. Also
Yeah, so let me translate for our English listeners. So yeah, it's I will translate for you, no words, So it's about language. I know. So far, it's the majority of our community, or not the majority, but the largest group is German-speaking people. I think you make up 30% of our community. And so far, we kept everything in English because it's our main language, and translating costs a lot of time. But yeah, so we will write the white paper in English, and it will then be translated into other languages, German, and then maybe French, Spanish, let's see. But the good thing is, you can also leave your comments in German, Tina, because I speak it. And yeah, a lot of people in our team that will also work on the white paper speak German. So feel free to just add German comments. We will be able to understand.
I have a question on that in terms of like expertise around certain topics. Like, what are the requirements?
There are no major requirements. You know, it's we also want to see whether, if you like, let's say you're not familiar with crypto in general, then you can review it and leave comments like things you don't understand. Because this is one of the issues I often have, to, you know, to be honest. So because I've been working in this space for a long time, I kind of have this, I'm blind towards you know, people not understanding certain topics, which, you know, are like the daily concepts that I use every day. So it would be nice to have even people who don't understand everything to review it and say, I don't understand this, or can you make it a little simpler? We want to have a white paper which is understandable, let's say, even for people who do not have crypto background, because most of our community right now is actually not, you know, no crypto experts. They joined Neco not because it's another cryptocurrency, but because of the values. And I think a lot of our people of our community do not even have other cryptos.
Yeah, I'm interested. Kind of like breaking the message and the wording down to Lieschen Müller level.
Yeah, exactly. And we're also trying to, you know, the challenge is always to reduce the complexity and make it shorter. On the other side, the white paper is what the authorities are going to review. So we have to put in all the legal stuff that they need, which obviously is not necessarily the stuff that our end users want to read, but we have to combine, we have to have these two interests, the interests of the regulators who look at the white paper and come to a conclusion whether we get the license or not based on the white paper, and our community who we want to understand the white paper in as simple words as possible. All right. Good.
I have somehow an input or something that I meditated a lot, and it was somehow that integrating our services more with cloud services. So the biggest companies in the world are all digital content distributors like Spotify, YouTube, Netflix. All these guys are kind of, they're having something, and whenever 1,000 people consume it or 8 billion, it wouldn't make a difference, because you don't have to produce more food, you don't have to produce more kind of services. It's just like you have something and you give access to different people. And this was really the question: how can we speed up this kind of collaboration with this kind of digital content producers, which then, if everybody has UBI, so imagine 3 billion people would have UBI, everybody could spend it on YouTube and removing ads or something like this. So how could we help to access this kind of core group? Because paying for goods is always kind of hard. People say like, yeah, I have to pay my goods then in euro, I need to change back, I have to do this and that. But if there would be only digital content to distribute, it would make it perhaps much easier to accept Neco as a currency.
Yeah, the adoption is definitely one of the key challenges for us. So how do we get people like to use Neco, and then the big corporations to accept it? Yeah, I think it will take some years to get these big corporations. We will start initially with the, I would say, low-hanging fruit, which is our target audience. LOHAS, lifestyles of health and sustainability. So these are, first of all, the people, individuals. It's a demographic segment making up around 15% in the Western industrialized nations, that are easy to spot because they have very common characteristics. So they are into yoga, meditation, mind, spirituality, electric cars, sustainable living, organic food. And then around this group is an ecosystem of companies that are working, like, you know, organic food providers and so on, that are the low-hanging fruit. So we'll probably target these first because they're in our, you know, in our target segment. And once this becomes more and more public, then I hope we will also be able to win companies like Tesla, Google, Apple, and so on. because they will also understand that, you know, Neco is not just making, you know, helping them because it turns profit, but also does something better for the greater good. And in terms of adoption by corporations, we have StackChain. So StackChain is our technology. It's more than just a blockchain platform. It's a banking platform that integrates banking, transactions, tax, and accounting. Right. So, for example, when a company runs, accepts Neco and runs StackChain, they can put their invoices directly onto a transaction. So you don't have to send invoices via email or even mail. They will be directly linked to the transaction. You just click on it. You will also be able to communicate with the buyers. So let's assume, you know, you're a pharmaceutical company, you're selling pills, whatever pills you sell. Right now they have an issue. They don't know who their end customer is, so they don't know when there are side effects. So through Neco, they can know and they can receive feedback. They can ask them, for example, are there any side effects? Or manufacturers of cars, Tesla, they could announce updates or, you know, product issues with their community through our platform. So we provide the ability to communicate with their client base. So these are all incentives that we have and that will attract companies to accept Neco, which will increase acceptance and will then help, because then you don't have to convert back into fiat and pay, you know, for Google service in fiat, but you can pay directly in Neco. The other advantage is Neco will always be free of charge. It means free of transaction costs. And that's another advantage. Right now, if you pay by card, the companies that you pay usually have to pay 3% of their revenue goes to the card providers, MasterCard, Visa, and so on. So with Neco, these transactions costs will no longer be there. They receive exactly what they got paid. So there's no charge in between, another incentive. Did that answer your question, Sansi?
Yeah, very good. Thanks a lot.
Good question. Thank you. Tina, please.
Thank you. Yes, I don't understand whether I don't know whether I understand the last sentences in the right way. Okay, to pay in Neco, maybe Google is or Google taxes is the one, or Google costs is the one thing, but corporation, I think Neco community has a kind of ethic or moralic standards, and so I was very happy. I heard first organic food but maybe it's growing bigger and bigger, and but the ethics standards bleiben, also stay.
Yes.
Okay.
I understand your question, and it's a very good concern, actually. You know, we are starting with a community that is aligned with our values. And as we expand, we also will reach companies that might not be so aligned with our values. And we will have one thing which I call collective blacklisting. So collectively, we will also decide which companies we will not allow on our platform. One example is military. So very clear, no company that is involved in any kind of military weapons and so on will be allowed to use Neco. So they will be banned. And then we have a method of collective intelligence called the NPS, Net Promoter Score, where other companies can also be scored by our community. And if the score is too negative, we will not allow them to, we will just ban them from our program. So making sure that our money doesn't go into the wrong hands. This can be certain politicians, this can be certain parties, these can be certain companies, maybe oil companies. You know, it's up to our community to decide where they believe these companies should not be supported by us and should not be allowed to have an equal account. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Great.
Good question. Good concern.
Another question. I remember that Neco wanted to or want to verlassen Google Mail, also to create a conversation platform out of Google.
Yes, yeah. Google is only our prototype platform, and they will be a partner of ours. So the section will run on multiple cloud platforms. One will be Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and other cloud providers. But you will no longer need a Google account. They will all come with the Neco app. So, this will be removed. I know some people have concerns about Google. Personally, I worked with Google many years. For me, it's one of the most trusted companies, especially in the cloud space. And also they've done really good job. The entire platform is carbon neutral. They have paid their carbon debt from even the years before. So I'm actually a fan of Google. Their services are really good. It was the perfect system for our prototype. But yeah, as I said, we will have our own platform, StackChain, which will be independent from Google. We will not rely on one partner, and our app will, once we have the app, you will just log into the app and everything will be in there. You will not have the necessity to sign up for Google.
Great, thank you.
All right, guys. More questions? I'm just looking at the time. We still have 8 minutes left, but I'm fine to finish a little earlier. Enjoy the warm weather outside. If there are no more questions, all right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. All right, then thank you everyone for your time. It was a pleasure having you in this call, and I am looking forward to another positive Neco regulation ending on Sunday. And and until our next Neco Community Conference in January. So thank you so much. Have a good time and all the best.